My name is Roy Jones, and I am the Chief Development Officer here at Eckerd Connects. We're a unique organization. See a lot of unique new names. Again, that's because of our guest today, Mr. Jodie Roberts. We're going to be interviewing him in just a moment. But thank you for joining us. Most people don't realize how big Eckerd is. You know, more than 136 programs, about 200 offices in 20 states, coast to coast. And so it is a big program. We are now in about 26 weeks in our weekly Lunch and Learn broadcast. I've actually talked to 26 program leaders. And again, with 136 programs, I got a few more broadcasts to do. But what we're trying to do is connect our supporters, our sponsors, our underwriters with our program directors, and then also create some interaction between various programs. Since starting Lunch and Learn, it's really unique. So many of our programs are independent, whether it's Workforce, Job Corps, Department of Juvenile Justice Transition Services, some of our learning academies, some of our camp and residential programs. They're unique. Many of them prior to Lunch and Learn had never worked together before, some of them even in the same state. And so that's one thing that I'm so excited about with our Lunch and Learns. Our CEO, David Dennis, calls them Launch and Learns because it's really moving us into an area where we're collaborating more, reaching out to our supporters, involving them more. We've had supporters actually see during a Lunch and Learn, a program director and maybe see some of their clients that were featured in the broadcast and have actually then called, set up meetings, and had one-on-ones with the programs they're interested in. So that's the purpose of this broadcast, is to connect you with people that want to impact your organization. And I am so honored. One of the things I did when I first got here about 18 months ago is I put this big map up in my office, and I put a star in at the location of every office, about 136 stars on that map. And then I put a little dot for every supporter we had, and put this map up across a huge wall-size map. And David Dennis walked in one day and he said, we've got a great program right here in Louisiana where that star is, and you need to work on getting some more dots for this guy, Jodie Roberts. And so today I am so excited, Jodie, you've joined us. Jodie earned his Bachelor of Science degree in psychology from Louisiana State University. He has an MS in clinical psych from Northwestern State University. And after working with children and adolescents at a mental health center in Arkansas for almost a decade, he returned to his home state, Louisiana, where he eventually started a private medical health agency. This agency used Medicaid funding to serve youth with significant behavioral health issues, as well as procure grant funding to assist local juvenile courts. Jodie then joined Eckerd Connects to run a wraparound program in central Louisiana. And 2 years later, the wraparound program in Lafayette was added. Recently, Jodie has implemented a juvenile justice program that has diversion and alternatives to detention components. A very exciting new thing that we are so pumped about. Jodie and his wife, Brenda, are proud of their son, Trey, who recently graduated with his MSW and is working in the New Orleans area. Jodie, thank you so much for joining us today. We so appreciate it.
Well, Roy, thanks for having me.
Well, I like to get these things started, our Launch and Learns, as David Dennis calls them, by taking just a few minutes. And if you would, just give us a big picture overview of your program. What kind of things do you do there?
Well, Roy, everything that we do in the community-based programming in Louisiana is really aimed at keeping kids in the community, helping kids be successful in this community. And it's our main program is the Wraparound Agency, as you mentioned, which is a data-driven model of intensive service planning and coordination that's aimed at trying to keep kids in their homes and in the community and out of more restrictive settings and those types of things. Our target population for the Wraparound program are kids between the ages of 5 and 20 who are at risk of being removed from their homes. One of the good things Louisiana did as it developed its coordinated system of care is that they really broke down the silos. And they said it doesn't matter if this kid is at risk of being placed in detention because of juvenile justice issues. It doesn't matter if it's a behavioral health issue and they're being at risk of psych hospitals, or child welfare issues where there's, maybe foster care placements. It doesn't matter. If a kid is at risk of out-of-home placement for any reason, then the Wraparound program can step in and try to help address their behavioral health issues that are leading to these level of discussions and those types of things. Once we put together a team that for each youth that's individualized, and everything we do is very individualized. But this team is going to really consist of both formal service providers, but also natural supports. A big part of the Wraparound model is teaching the family. We say sometimes teaching the family to fish. I did mental health work for a long time in which I caught fish and gave them to families. I solved problems for the family. And not to disparage that work, but what we found was we couldn't really ever stop working with them. Where with Wraparound, we really take the opportunity to teach families how to access the help that's out there, what to do if that help is not sufficient and you need more, or you need a change or modification. And so we really are kind of teaching them to fish, teaching them to manage the behavioral challenges that they're facing themselves instead of having it go to other folks. So since 2012, we've served about 3,000 kids. We have about a 75% successful completion rate. Of the people that successfully complete, we consistently get 99, 98, even up to 100% satisfaction with the services we provide. But we also know not only are families and youth pleased with what we're doing, but we're seeing data that suggests that it does have a positive impact. Decrease in referral behaviors, improvement in mental health, making mental health gains, improvement in family functioning, improvement in school, both in terms of behavior, but also in terms of grades and performance. So we've been very successful. We continue to grow. We'll talk some, I guess, later about some of the challenges we faced more recently. But we're proud of the work that we've done here. And to be honest, Roy, we're proud of the fact that there's some people, some young folks who've come through our program as staff who've worked with us, who've gone on to be leaders in our community in terms of other programs out in the community. So we feel like we're not only helping the youth and family that we're served, but we're helping the system as a whole.
Wow, that's a staggering number. More than 3,000 people helped. How do they find out about your program?
Well, most of our youth are really referred by a professional that's involved with their life. Somebody from their school, somebody from court, or we say in Louisiana, FINS program, or Family in Need of Services, which are a status offender youth. Somebody at a hospital or a psychiatric residential treatment facility might identify that this youth would benefit from Wraparound. But more and more over the years, we've seen kind of a word of mouth that family members or neighbors or others are telling people in the community, if you need help with your kid, if what you're doing is not working, reach out to Eckerd. They help it fine tune it so that it really zeroes in on your underlying needs and are able to address the problems that you face. So it is kind of a process because it is Medicaid funded, and in Louisiana, Medicaid is managed care.
Right.
So we have to kind of work through the process, but we help the families do that. All that anybody has to do is reach out to one of our offices, and our staff there, our community resource specialists at each program, will reach out to the family and help them work through that process of their managed care company, and then Magellan, which is our funder, who is the managed care company for the coordinated system of care here in Louisiana. But we help to go through that. It does mean that we have to do it in kind of an 8 to 5 process. That's not ideal for us and the families we work with, but we make the adjustments as we can. And it does take a bit to get through it, but once we get through that, it doesn't have to be repeated, and we kind of move forward from there. Once we get the referral from the managed care company, we're going to contact the family within 48 hours. We're going to do an orientation and intake within 7 business days. We're going to start to work with the family to develop a family story. So what's the history of the family? What makes them unique? What unique strengths do they have, and what unique challenges do they face? Then we're going to also have our licensed assessors, who are licensed mental health professionals. They're going to go out and do a formal assessment using the CANS rating tool and do a behavioral health assessment of the youth and the family and what their needs are. Then we're going to work with the family to pull together that team I mentioned earlier and have a team meeting. The product of that team meeting is really a plan of care. That plan of care is going to direct what everybody involved in the team is going to do, what mom's going to do, what the youth is going to do, what the counseling agency is going to do, what our wraparound facilitator, who's our frontline staff that helps each family, what they're going to do to help the program and help the youth and family as well. Over time, we're going to start to add folks to that team. Like I said earlier, it might be former providers. For example, we might have a youth who is facing some challenges related to autism. So we might connect them to an ABA program. We might have a youth who has a trauma history. So we're going to connect them to a counselor that's specifically trained or certified to address that past trauma. It might be that they need more traditional mental health services that we've used a lot here in Louisiana, like the mental health rehab options or just general counseling. We can add some specific services that only youth in the coordinated system of care have access to. And so that's going to be things like the Family Support Organization, which is a peer-to-peer model of support, both a parent support and a youth support. So it's folks who kind of walked a mile in these shoes, who face some of these challenges, but overcome them, who can really be supportive to the youth and the parent as we go through that. There are other specialized services we can do, like independent living skills and those types of things that we have providers that can help connect the kids to. But a big part of what we try to add to the team too are natural supports. And natural supports are people who can be there in the kids' lives. We always say it's somebody who's in the room but not being paid to be there. So it can be a relative, it can be a coach, Sunday school teacher. We've had actually a school resource officer, which was a little concerning to us when he first said he wanted to talk to us about this kid. But he was a real champion for that kid. Started bringing him, took the kid to his first football game and really started to not only mentor that youth, but some siblings that youth had too. So we can find people in these kids' lives that can be supportive of them and can help them be successful. So that they can not only graduate from our program, most kids stay in the program somewhere between 12 and 18 months, and then they graduate out. Doesn't mean necessarily that all the challenges are over, but they know how to handle them and how to address them. They might still be doing some counseling, they might still be doing some other work, but basically they're going to have things under control and things are getting better instead of spiraling down like they are when most of them arrive to us.
Wow. Can you believe one of the questions I was going to ask was, what is a wraparound program? You have just defined it just by that model of care. I mean, whether it's people that are naturally in the child's lives, finding special services that they need, and then bringing professionals to the team. Wow, I'm blown away.
Right. It's a really whatever it kind of takes mentality. It's truly just getting together, looking at each individual family and their unique situation and finding a way to help them be successful. So.
Wow, that is so special. Well, Jodie, I want to throw a curveball at you. I'm known for my curveball, but I want to hear your story. Talk to me about your passion. How did you get where you are? What sparked in your heart to say, man, I want to help young people that need it? Talk to me about that.
I'll tell you, Roy. I grew up here locally. Went to Baton Rouge for college and went to Northwestern for Natchitoches, which is about 50 miles north of here, to graduate school. But then I went to go do my internship in Arkansas for what was supposed to be a 4-month internship, and went to work for a private, not-for-profit community mental health center there that just happened to be at a phase in their growth and development where they were adding a children's program. So I got an opportunity to not only learn clinical skills, how to deal with families and, some counseling techniques and other, services and interventions you can do with families, but I also had an opportunity to learn how to be an administrator, to learn some budgeting and management and those types of skills. So I had a real good basis there for nonprofit work with youth in this population. I was actually trained. Arkansas was a little ahead of Louisiana at that point. And we were trained in the wraparound model in the early 90s, which when it was much earlier in the development of that model, but we were trained in it and that kind of whatever it takes and a system of care to support a youth and family and those types of things. So I had a pretty good background in that. Like I said, I was supposed to be there 4 months and ended up staying almost a decade through most of the 90s. Then, due to some family issues, we decided to come home and move back to where my wife and I are from here in Central Louisiana. And I kind of looked for that. It didn't really exist in terms of private, not-for-profit mental health centers. There was a state-run mental health center, but it was not a lot of opportunities there for new positions and those types of things. So I searched around a bit, had a couple of other jobs, but then eventually started my own agency with some partners and ran a mental health agency, a Medicaid-funded mental health agency, like you mentioned earlier, here in Central Louisiana for most of the 2000s in that period. And not only did we do kind of the traditional mental health things that have been done here in Louisiana for a long time, but I was very active and involved with the juvenile justice reform that happened in Louisiana through that period of time as well. There was a DOJ ruling against the way the state was doing some things, and MacArthur Foundation came in and funded a project to try to reform our juvenile justice system. We were heavily involved in that and trying to support the juvenile court. But once again, it was all about trying to keep kids in the community. What I learned very early on is that you can take a kid out of a community and change their behavior, but if you have to put them back in that environment, you haven't really accomplished a whole lot. You've got to be able to help that youth and family be successful in that natural and home and community. And that's really what's driven me all these times. I don't disparage residential programs. At times, there are times where kids need that level of structure and support, and it needs to be used. But you have to be able to do that follow-up in the community and have your system be able to meet their needs there. So after I had ran my agency for a while, we closed the partnership, and I was kind of contracted with a number of different jobs, doing some functional family therapy and other things. And then I heard about this project that Louisiana was doing to develop a system of care. Well, that was exactly where my roots were in terms of what I learned in Arkansas. It was exactly kind of how we ran our agency when we ran our private agency, which was supporting families in a very family-driven and supportive way. And so I decided I wanted to try to be involved with that and maybe run that program and do actually a job that we had been developing when I was just about to leave Arkansas, was to be the regional wraparound director, and that's really what I wanted to do here, and to be able to do it in my home community where my family is, and where people I grew up with, was especially kind of an opportunity that just felt like I was in the right place at the right time. And I often say that God's led me to be in the right place at the right time every time. I just don't always know it. And so we decided to pursue this. Me and my counterpart, Miss E.J. Babcock, who is the state director for our wraparound program and kind of my rock. And so we decided to do this. We got some feedback very quickly from very astute business people that because this was going to be a managed care environment, that we needed to be prepared with some cash on hand and some infrastructure that we really didn't have. And we wanted to do it right. So we started to take some calls from some national groups. Some groups talked to me about profit margins and those types of things. And to be honest, I never really took that call again. Some groups talked to me about, we're going to come teach you how to do this. We're going to teach you wraparound. We're going to teach you community-based services. And at that point, I'd been doing that 15 years or more. So I really didn't, and I had been taught wraparound by some of the national leaders in wraparound. So, they didn't hear that message. What really impressed me when Eckerd called, and it was actually Ron Zakowski, who was the chief operating officer at the time, reached out and said, how can we help you? And I was shocked. I was like, wait, you're asking me? I'm not, kind of begging you for help, but you're asking me, what do I need? And I told him, I said, well, Ron, what I need is some infrastructure, administrative help, and some financial backing. And his response to me was literally, we got that. What else do you need? Do I need to send you a laptop? And that's really what's really worked well for us locally and here in Louisiana with Eckerd, is that although Eckerd is a large national nonprofit, each program really does kind of function more autonomously, but we have the support of our support center to be there if we need them. When we need financial help or accounting help, or we need marketing help and relationships with the community, or, quality issues and those kinds of things, there are people there that can help us. And so to me, I tell people all the time, it's the best case scenario to me because I get to develop a program and address my local community where I'm my home and help their needs while, but not having to worry about keeping the light bills on and making sure we're doing things right way and doing things high quality. And so it's really the best case scenario for me. And I've never regretted the decision to come to work for Eckerd for some time. So it's been a real challenge. It's allowed me to continue to do the work that I've been doing since I came back to Louisiana, which is trying to improve our system here to get a behavioral health system that is effective, that is efficient, that is responsive and addresses the family needs, and it's driven by the families and youth that we serve. And that's really what I've tried to do, and that's really what keeps me so excited about the work that we're doing for Eckerd, is that my job now is, like I said, I have EJ to kind of run the wraparound programs and other staff that helps us with our juvenile justice program. And that's really how the juvenile justice program started. Is, like I said, my job now is to find out where the gaps are and what else can we do to help. And that's how our smaller juvenile justice program got started, was a discussion I had with some folks locally about increased numbers of truancy. Obviously, this was pre-COVID, but increased numbers of truancy, and that was kind of overwhelming our local court systems. That was overwhelming the status offender program. And the judges in some of the areas were looking for some options besides detaining kids, because what we know is when we detain them, they typically ended up in longer term placements. So luckily, we were able to watch an opportunity where there was, and that's part of what I love about my job, is I get to stay in tune with what's going on in the legislature. We knew there was going to be some funding coming from the justice reform, that the Office of Juvenile Justice was going to commit to community-based services. So we kind of thought that maybe there'd be a big project. We could do something big statewide. But as they're rebuilding their system, they really divided it out and wanted to do smaller projects. And so that kind of thing. But it was exactly what we needed to do to help this community. There was a specific gap there that we could step in and fill through the Office of Juvenile Justice funding that we were able to secure. And so we prevented a large number of kids from further entrance into the juvenile justice system, and definitely giving judges some options with some of the kids who are on probation to get them some services, as opposed to just putting them in detention, leading to their eventual placement in a more secure placement. So once again, all about keeping kids in the community and helping them be successful.
Wow. So that's just amazing. We are so honored to have you on our team. I mean, the skill set and the experience you bring, it brings value to us all. So thank you so much. We're so honored. Take just a minute. I see you light up when you talk about the kids. You talk about the students. You talk about your clients. Take a couple minutes and tell me a few success stories. What kids, when you think about those that have graduated, what kids come top of mind? Tell me a couple of those stories.
I can tell you stories all day on that kind of stuff, Roy, and I love to do it. As somebody who's been an advocate for a growth and a further development of our system, particularly a system that's client and youth driven, one of the first stories that jumps out to me as a real success is that we had a youth who had some real anger issues, significant conflicts with mom that had led to police involvement and other things. And we had gotten him connected with a provider. But the provider really was focusing more on mom and the family dynamic than helping the youth address their own personal anger issues. And at a CFT meeting, the youth stood up and said that. And even when the professional from the provider agency tried to kind of shush her and say, "Oh yeah, we'll take care of that and we get it done," she was confident enough, with the support of our facilitator, to speak up and very appropriately say, "No, that's not meeting my need. I need something more. I need you to do more for me. And if you can't do that, then I need another provider." And to see, this state has mental health system. People were so grateful to get any help they could get, that they didn't do anything to disrupt that. Even if they knew it wasn't effective, even if they knew that maybe they needed something more, they didn't want to do anything that might make them lose what little bit they had. And so to see this youth stand up to a provider and say, "That doesn't meet my need. I need more out of you." was a huge success in my mind, not only for that youth and that family to make sure she's getting what she needs, but it was a lesson for that provider that you need to be listening to these youth. You need to hear what they're telling you and really engage with them in a way that they're going to be more likely to be successful. I tell people all the time, behavioral health intervention is not something you can do to a kid. It's something you have to do with a kid. You can't make them change. All you can do is help them understand why they need to change and how they can change, and then provide them the support they do to be able to do that. Let's see, another success story. Another one that comes to mind, Roy, is one that's just from a while back down in our Lafayette program. But this was a young girl that was engaging in some very risky behaviors in terms of runaway and contacting men on the internet. And, there was some question about if she'd maybe even had been trafficked at some point, and was very significant involvement in, like I say, these very high risk behaviors that were very traumatic and very problematic. And so we worked with her. We got her involved with some trauma counseling to address some of that stuff. We got her involved in other things. But the team also worked in a unique way to find a way to kind of reinforce that child in a way that was meaningful to her. One of the things that they did was they helped her to redesign her room, and some members of the team even went to the house and helped her paint walls and all that kind of stuff to really make her room be a place that she felt like she had some ownership in. It was a place that she could kind of control, and that she felt like she could establish some control over her life at that point. And because of that, because she felt like she had that piece of kind of certainty and security, she was able to engage with the providers and others that we had her engage with, and really make progress, and move forward, and have a much better chance of being successful, and seeing where it goes from there. And so once again, that's just one of those things where she was one of those kids where people would say, when I first started in the field, and it seems like not that long ago, but it was actually quite a while ago, we used to use there were therapists who used the term clinic ready, that a client had to be clinic ready or you can't help them, meaning they had to walk in and say, I need to change, and this is what I need to change, and this is why I want to change it. We can't wait for these kids to get clinic ready. There are a lot of them that we're dealing with are on a downward spiral. And if we don't do something to kind of address that, if we don't do something to kind of keep them, get them on a better path, it could be very, very bad. It reminds me of the third story I want to tell you, Roy, which is about a young man and his mother that I recently met, who he's been out of the program probably maybe about a year or something like that. He was in the program for about 18 months. When he came to us, there was significant conflict between he and mom, and just they weren't communicating. When they did try to communicate, it didn't go well, and she could see, and the youth could see, that this was just spiraling down and getting worse and worse, and it was really having an impact on both of their lives. Mom was having difficulty with her jobs, and because of having to deal with so much stuff with him, and he was having difficulties at school and those kind of challenges that they faced. And so it was, they got involved with Wraparound. We connected him with some services, helped the family develop some new ways to communicate. And they really were able to kind of settle things down, get back on a better track. Since leaving the program, he graduated high school. And now he and mom are both in college. In fact, when I met them recently, she was teasing him about needing that they were both going to be wearing their graduation gowns at the same time, as she's also in college as well herself. So we're those kind of stories, and like I say, there's literally thousands of them that I could tell that there's a lot of success. We've really done well. We've had a young man in our juvenile justice program that if we had not been there to intervene, the court was likely to have placed him in at least a group home setting, if not a more secure setting, based on escalating behavior with the mother and the child. We got involved with the youth. We helped assess his needs. We did get him connected to some service providers, even a brief stint in a residential program. But then he came back out, and he's doing very well. He's doing well academically. He's doing well in the family situation. He's one of our recent recipients of our Success Awards, where we've used that to help him pay for his driving school, so he can get driver's ed. So
that is so amazing. The thing that just shines through in every one of these stories, Jodie, to me is just the dignity that you bring your clients. Whether it's coming alongside them and painting the room and helping provide identity to that young lady. It's pretty special, and it just says something about your heart, your passion, and just how it pushed through the organization, and it just means so much. Wow, wow. We'll take a couple minutes, and I don't want to get clinical here, but it is the kind of the first quarter of a new year. Any new program goals? What kind of stuff are you wrestling with programmatically right now?
Well, in the Alexandria program, we really do need to kind of stabilize our census. We were heavily reliant upon school referrals in that program. Most of our referrals came from our partners in the school districts. And when COVID hit and those things happened, and it really had a significant impact on the referrals that were coming in. And so we faced a little bit of a challenge there. So we really want to kind of stabilize the Alexandria program, just get continue to get our capacity back up to where it was. We've had unfortunately, there's a cap on the number of slots available for the wraparound program statewide. So when our census goes down here, if other areas of the state have kids who need the service, they take some of our slots away or some of our capacity away. So we really want to kind of stabilize that situation and help the Alexandria grow back to the way it was. We are capacity-wise, we're the smallest agency in the state of Louisiana, although we cover some of the largest geographic area because we're also one of the more rural areas of the state. So our city and our region in Alexandria is the smallest city in the state. So it's some challenges we face there. We want to be able to work with our local community to get back. We started school back full time now. There's some kids doing virtual, but we've done away with the hybrid schedules. So kids being back in school helps us a little bit to identify which kids might need help, particularly as this has been tough for a lot of kids in the isolation and other things that they faced during this past year.
Talk to me about just how has COVID really impacted you programmatically? How has it impacted the kids individually? You kind of just touched on that, but expand on that a little bit.
It's been tough. It's been tough when you have a community-based program, and we are very community-based. Very little of what we have done historically happens in this office. Most of what we do in a client home, in a school setting, or in some other community setting. So it's been tough. It's tough. We specifically hire people who are kind of social, who like to engage with kids, who draw energy from engaging and discussing and debating things with youth. And it's just not the same when you do that virtually. We have moved to doing things virtually, and we've been fairly successful at it. We've had a number of technology challenges, I would say, in terms of access, in terms of hardware and software and those types of things. To be honest, both in staff and in the youth and families that we serve. So, like I said, once again, we're a very rural area. So I know sometimes our folks at our corporate office don't always understand. Our IT guys will say, well, you can do this anywhere when you have a hotspot. And well, what they don't understand is we have areas where there's not phone service. So, you have to be able to make some adjustments and figure out how you do that remotely. And it's been a real challenge. I had to do some stuff by phone. As our staff and our families have gotten better at the technology, and we've been able to overcome some of those issues. We've gotten better at doing them, this type of style of meeting and that sort of thing, which is better than just a phone call, but still not the same as being there in person. I mentioned earlier the disruption in the referrals in the Alexandria program and kind of a loss in some of our capacity there. That's actually, we are down 2 positions from what we were budgeted to be at. Luckily, we were able to kind of handle that through attrition. Folks who were, not happy sitting at home, being on the phone 8 hours a day and that sort of thing. And so they left us for some other programs. So we were able to kind of do that without having to lay anybody off or that kind of thing to reduce those positions so that we stay, good financial stewards of the resources that we're given. But I will say that we've had some attrition over this past year, but what's very encouraging to me and lets me know that we're doing a good job here is that several of those folks who went out to greener grasses have come back to us. So we've had some staff who've come back as we've had positions open up, who step back in, who've been with us, so they're well trained and understand the model and are ready to go. So it's been a pretty significant impact. It's been tough, not only, like I say, to try to get the job done, but just kind of emotionally, especially, like I say, when we have staff who are really feed off the energy of youth and that sort of thing, not to be able to be there to experience that. And we know that it's been tough on our families. A lot of our kids, especially our younger kids, are really faced with some social skills challenges and those types of things. And when they don't have any opportunity to really practice those skills, it's very tough to teach them those skills when you're not able to have them, be in a real life situation where they can practice them. So that's been a challenge. Families being open to the idea of telecounseling and that sort of thing has been a challenge as well. Tried to reassure them that the research says that it's more effective than nothing and maybe not be as effective as live counseling, but it's some help and some benefit there. And so we've tried to work with that. Hopefully, as we continue to move forward and kind of move past some of this, we'll be able to get back to folks being able to get the services directly and face to face. But COVID has been a big impact.
One thing you touched on, Jodie, was success awards. You mentioned one of the young men that was able to get one. How have those helped you during this COVID time, just to motivate your young people?
It really has been a help as we begin to use more of the success awards in this program, because what we use those for is to really be able to recognize those youth who really have made dramatic changes, who've really gone the extra mile, and really kind of stepped it up in a way that we felt like needed to be recognized. I mean, we're adequately funded, thanks to the way that Louisiana structured our services. So we are able to meet most of our needs, not that we don't have some aging equipment and those kind of things that are going to need to be replaced as we continue to face some of these challenges. But basically, to meet the basic needs and expectations of this program, we're funded okay for that. But it's these extra things like success awards that the generosity and the mercy of the donors that have given those funds to be able to use that in that way has really been successful. We've had kids who have done. We had a young man who had made real progress, and part of the unique thing about his plan of care was that they had him going to a martial arts school. Well, we knew when he made tremendous progress from in trouble all the time to one of the better, kids. I think he even got student of the week at some point or something. And but what we were able to do, we knew that that'd be a challenge for mom to continue to pay for that moving forward. So, which if we discharged her from the program, we can't continue to try to help her with it. But with the Success Award, we were able to nominate him and show his progress, and we were able to, with the generosity from the donors, we were able to really pay for that for a full year for him. So that made it where there was no question if he could continue. It wasn't, can mom afford to do it this month or that month? And so especially as, a single mom facing some of those challenges in terms of finances and those types of things, for us to be able to do that, to keep that piece of what had helped him be so successful and to guarantee that it would be there moving forward for him as he grows through this next year, was just tremendous in its ability to be able to do it. And we're very grateful to the donors who've been contributing to the Success Award program so that we can give these kind of acknowledgments and expression of our appreciation and respect for the challenges that they've overcome. So,
wow, yeah, and that really is special. And I know we've got some supporters on our call today. And again, we cannot thank you enough. These young people are changed forever because of the investment you're making. I do want to remind everybody, and so often we take this for granted, but through a large family foundation, right now we have a 2-to-1 match. So for every dollar donated, this foundation gives us 2 to help with Success Award scholarships like the one Jodie mentioned, And so again, if you've got $1,000 to invest, $5,000 to invest, $10,000 to invest, to think that that gift is going to be matched 2 to 1, it's just a significant investment, has a tremendous impact. The other thing, and Jodie kind of touched on this, because his overhead needs are already taken care of, when you make a gift of success awards, it goes 100% to the student. You know, we're not taking off piece for overhead, rent, my salary, Jodie's salary. No, it goes directly to the student. And to provide 100% program impact is just so unique in the nonprofit world today. So it's really one of a kind, and we cannot thank you enough for supporting Success Awards. Jodie, wow, thank you so much for using Success Awards the way you're doing it. It must create a lot of buzz for kids to work a little harder, to do a little bit more, to know that they might have a chance to win one of these.
Yeah, we had a young man who had been doing really well, and he had started to. He decided to step away from school and was going to not continue his education. But when the worker talked to him about, you know, we were looking to nominate you for a Success Award, but we don't really want to do that if you're not going to move forward with some type of plan. And he came back to her like in 2 days with a plan. This is what I want to do to further my education and move forward and that sort of thing. So it definitely did motivate him to kind of, turn back around and get back on the track where he had been going for so long and the progress he had made. And so, like I said, we're always grateful to the donors who make that a possibility for us.
Wow. Well, Jodie, this has been an amazing, fast-moving 45 minutes. I just can't tell you how much I learned about. I had some thoughts in my head about what the wraparound concept was. I have to tell you, the comments we've been getting just in the chat room, people are saying, wow, I got to add this concept to my program. We need to be doing this nationally. You really have been an inspiration to our viewers today, and I'm just blown away by what you're doing. Thank you so much. I want to open it up. Does anybody have any questions for Jodie? I'm going to give him a chance to tell you how to reach him in just a minute. But does anybody have any questions? This is always like pain and suffering to get me to pull it out of people, to get them to unmute their mic and ask their questions. Does anybody want to join Jodie today and ask a question? You may just want to shout it out. Jodie, I'm reading comments like, there are so many communities in various states that could benefit from a program like this. Another comment, every state in the U.S. needs a Jodie Roberts. This is great work. This is important work, especially given the times we're living in. Engaging these youth and family this way should be a top priority. Thank you, Jodie. Thank you. So trust me, you've touched some hearts today. We so appreciate what you're doing, and it is just amazing. We did record this today, so I want folks to know we are going to be sending this to everybody. We'll also, Jodie, with your permission, take a few excerpts out so that you can use in social media. We'll use it too with your permission. But I just thought this was tremendous, man. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I'd just like to say that, we wouldn't be anywhere near as successful as we are without the real top shelf team that we have here, from our leadership to our frontline staff to our office support staff. We really got a really good team. Ms. Lynn Henderson, our quality manager, Benny Norris, our billing manager, are folks who really work hard for the success of the program and the success of the youth and family we serve. And it's a real joy to me to be able to see that team continue to grow and this program continue to grow, and the staff as they continue to grow in their ability to help others. So.
Awesome. Well, if one of our donors, supporters, sponsors, another program leader in Eckerd Nation wanted to reach you, Jodie, how do we do that?
My email is jroberts@eckerd.org. So JROBERTS@eckerd.org. My phone is 318-464-6520.
Say it again slowly now. I got a big
318-464-6520. is my phone number. And I'm usually at the office most of the days lately, these days. And that number's in Alexandria is 318-443-7900.
Great. Jodie, thank you so much. I cannot wait to continue to get updates. And now that, as you kind of indicated, and as we all hope and pray, this COVID thing begins to change a little bit, open things up a little bit, I cannot wait to get to Louisiana and spend some time with you, introduce you to supporters, spend some time with you. I am so looking forward to it. So thank you, brother. We appreciate your time today.
No problem. Thank you, Roy.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Listen, next week is going to be really special. You want to be part of it. Our Project Bridge program is going to be doing a presentation with the Jason Foundation on suicide prevention. So that's something that really helps impacts us all. You'll want to tune in next Wednesday. So join us next Wednesday, Lunch and Learn, as we talk about suicide prevention. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.